college studies are concerned, you do mention that if you are studying management, you can take up music, but will it extend beyond that? Like if you are a student of arts and suddenly you feel like you are also interested in chemistry, will those boundaries be like flexible now?
Yes, those boundaries will not exist now. At the higher level also will not exist. You know, the national education policy plans to have multidisciplinary universities.
New education policy is going to be implemented from the next academic session. And how is that going to change Jammu and Kashmir's research ecosystem? Will it be contributing immensely to the knowledge economy? To talk about it, I have with me the chairperson of ICSSR, Professor P. Kanagasabapati. First of all, Professor Kanagasabapati, I would like to ask you about this, that new education policy has come up and it is being ascertained that research ecosystem is especially going to transform. How do you see the changes that will be brought into Jammu and Kashmir? Like in the university culture, research is most important. What kind of changes do we expect in J&K?
Yes. Thank you, Ms. Pallavi and team. The National Education Policy 2020 is going to make drastic changes in the academic and research field. You know, as for the present, we don't take up realistic studies. You know, we are all from the academic field. The kind of studies that we make today are largely based on Western approaches. So we try to see whether those approaches work here or not. You know, this is the kind of research works that we do, particularly in social sciences. Or we test the Western theories that were propounded by somebody 100 years back, 120 years back, etc., etc. But you know, India is a different kind of country. It's a civilization, ancient civilization. As a civilization, we have strong fundamentals. So the way the Indian society functions, the Indian economy functions, they're completely different. But we don't realize this because we don't take up field studies from the Indian point of view as such. When I say Indian, it is Jammu point of view, Kashmir point of view, Tamil Nadu point of view, local-centric studies or India-centric studies. We don't do it. So as a result, you see there is a huge gap today between the university academic system and the realities. We don't teach either our history or the contemporary functioning systems. If you see India in the last 70 years, it has undergone a lot of changes. 74 years back, we were a poor country. Today, we are the third largest economy. Last year, our growth rate was the highest in the world, 9.2%. All the global agencies, research bodies, they unanimously say that India has the highest potential to emerge as the most important power in the whole world. But we don't know how India is functioning. To give you just one example, last year the savings rate in India was 31.2%. So out of every 100 rupees, our Indians save 31.20 paise. You take the Western countries, so-called richer countries, their saving rate is 6%, 7%, largely in single digits. Why? Because our parents feel that it is their duty to save as much money as possible so that they could provide better education to the children, so that they could promote something, so that we would be able to enjoy life in future. So that is how the Indian system works, because it is largely driven by our culture. We don't take up this kind of research studies. As far as India is concerned, you know, even the ordinary people of this country, they have enormous economic, business, entrepreneurial, social wisdom. You might have heard a word that is used, jugaad. So, you know, these are all small innovations taken up by people at the local levels. A few years back, Department of Science and Technology mentioned that 30% of the innovations in India take place through what we call illiterates. They may not be formally illiterates, but they have the capacity, skill to make something, produce something, improve something. So this is there, but we don't take up at all. If you see our country in the last 70 years, the reason for our progress is our enormous capacity, the capacity of the Indians. At the same time, in the last 20, 30 years, the Western approaches are failing. Their economic approach, social approach, business approach are failing. 2008, one American professor from Princeton University by name Paul Krugman was awarded Nobel Prize. 2008, 7-8 was the period where the global economy underwent a crisis that is called global economic crisis. All the Western approaches failed. So he openly admitted all our economic theories have proved to be harmful to the society. He openly acknowledged it. So on the one side you see the Western systems failing, on the other side you see Indian systems, Chinese systems. They're all uh, coming up, but we don't take up studies. The National Education Policy 2020, in terms of research, it is going to connect the academic system with the functioning realities.
So what you're saying, like that, currently there's poor quality research mainly because there's a dearth of applied aspects of those researches. It's mainly theoretical and it's very disconnected with the reality of what's happening. How is that going to change? Like, what concrete steps are going to be taken to change that approach? Because currently, like, there are going to be changes that will be required to be made in the university ecosystem, like in what kind of projects would be funded, what kind of research projects would be supported and encouraged. So will there be any change in that?
Correct. See, I don't mean that no worthwhile research is taking place. What research is taking place, particularly in social sciences, we need to make our research more and more applied. This is the most important point. As far as the National Education Policy 2020 is concerned, it is going to connect the reality, as I said, with the academic system, university system. How? Hereafter, from the school level onwards, education is going to undergo a great change. You may be knowing that National Education Policy prescribes preferably education through mother tongue from the earlier phase. All of us know mother tongue plays a very, very important role. We are not against English, but mother tongue plays a very important role, particularly in terms of understanding the local situation, making something for the local society and all. So this is one important aspect. Second important aspect is from the 6th standard onwards, education will include the vocational education. Not compulsory, but depending upon the requirement, wishes, needs of the students who are studying in a particular school, they will be encouraged to take up vocational education. You all, as I said earlier, our people have enormous skill set. If a particular student is interested to take up some vocation from the earlier days, it is well and good. But he will decide later after completing his plus 2 what is good for him or her. But once they are interested, then that will expose them to the realities. And the third important aspect hereafter in the curriculum, the knowledge of local society, local culture, local innovation, they are all going to be part of the education system. In certain classes, ninth, students will be asked to go on leave, will be given leave for certain days. And during such period, they have to go and visit the localities to see what are the important places in their locality, what type of economic activities are taking place, what type of industries are working, so that they will develop interest. This is up to school level. Then college level, this will continue. When one comes to the college level now, there is going to be great flexibility. A student who is taking up a study in, let us say, one subject, management, if he or she is interested in music, if he or she is interested in some other aspect, let us say some cultural active dance, they can do it as a part of the curriculum,
There will be a multidisciplinary approach to studies now, but will that multidisciplinary approach be extended to research work as well? Because in research, it is generally seen that if you want to research on a sociological aspect of something, that you're not allowed to mix in the technological aspect as well. So will this cross-disciplinary approach extend towards research also? And as far as college studies are concerned, you do mention that if you are studying management, you can take up music, but will it extend beyond that? Like, if you are a student of arts and suddenly you feel like you are also interested in chemistry, will those boundaries be like flexible now?
Yes, those boundaries will not exist now. at the higher level also will not exist. You know, the national education policy plans to have multidisciplinary universities, at least one at the district level throughout the country, multidisciplinary university. So now, if somebody is engaged in technology related studies, engineering, he or she can combine technology, engineering with the social science and then take up research. No problem now. It is allowed, it is encouraged. In fact, it is encouraged. You know, we have to understand no study can be studied in isolation. If you want perfection, then you want to see what are the related factors that are influencing it. So, multidisciplinary research is going to be given very important role in future research. And as far as research is concerned now, research works are taking place in silos, social science, then engineering, medicine, etc. Hereafter, there will be a national level body, national institute, national research foundation has already been set up. So huge funds are going to be allocated. You know, government will has promised to allocate huge funds, as a result of which this national research fund will coordinate all the activities. As far as the state of Jammu Kashmir is concerned, we all know that it is part and parcel of the Indian civilization. And Kashmir was center of learning. Jammu Kashmir, for many generations, centuries together, it contributed to the knowledge process for the whole country. We all know when Dr. Abhinav Gupta was here, well-known scholar, few centuries back, his contemporary was a person, scholar from South India, from Madurai. So this relationship existed over a period of time, several centuries. So as far as Jammu Kashmir is concerned, it will give a great scope for people to take up studies to improve the economy. You know, now from whatever little I could understand with regard to the functioning systems of Kashmir, one, this economy has to be improved. There are very many opportunities here. Export opportunities are here. And particularly in areas related to agro-related fields. There are many. You take up studies, you submit it to the government. You use it. Government will use it for the policy making. In 1819, we gave a proposal to the government, Ministry of Education, and they accepted it. The scheme was called IMPRESS scheme, Impactful Research in Social Sciences. Exclusively 220 crore was allotted for research study in social sciences. It was given to allotted for colleges and universities. The idea is to connect the local education system with the policy makers. The problem now is policy makers sit at the state level, let us say Srinagar or Chennai for Tamil Nadu, Delhi for the whole of the country. They sit and take decisions, but they may not know what is happening at the ground level. Who will be the first persons to provide details? Only the local academic institutions. So you ask a Jammu college situated in a particular place and then ask it to study the local situation, local wealth, local resources, local difficulties. They will be able to submit details better to the government, on the basis of which government can take action. So for this IMPRESS scheme, we get very good response, connecting the local institutions with the central government, state governments also. Of course, central government are now taking inputs based on these studies. Different departments, different ministries, they are taking inputs. So when you conduct these kind of studies in future, Jammu Kashmir will certainly improve, and the local people will have a say, will have a voice to represent their views.
You mentioned about local level research. That local level research does create a data bank of sorts, and how do you see that now that universities will also have a patent policy structure? So you include that data bank, you have a patent policy structure, and for all those small innovations and inventions that you call jugaad, there'll actually be a way to like commercialize it and have your own kind of like, it will be your intellectual property now. So how is that going to transform research in the days to come? Because the researcher who is putting in all that effort, they'll finally be able to get something out of it as well.
Yes. At the individual level, Pallavi, you are right. Whoever is doing research, that concerned professor, faculty member, he or she will be able to get patents. It is good contribution to the society. When we take up studies that are beneficial to the society, including getting patents, the larger interest is to improve the local economy, to improve the local systems. It could be related to economy, it could be related to social aspects, it could be related to even law and order aspects. So, if somebody, one or two or a few undertake studies, that could be used for policy making also, which is absent now. That is why this national education policy is going to connect the policy makers and the realities, local societies. So now this disconnect created by Macaulay in 1835 is going to be corrected. This is the problem. Since independence, even before independence, great thinkers like Maharishi Aurobindo, Rabindranath Tagore, they have all been saying that education should always be nationalistic, meaning local. It should be based on local realities.
This research will contribute towards problem solving.
Certainly.
And what about this, like a decision was taken in this new education policy to do away with MPhil? Like how do you see that decision and what influenced it? Like do you believe that MPhil is now irrelevant, or why was that decision taken?
Yes, you are right. We are all from the education system, we have spent about 35 years in the system. In the changed circumstances now, what is required is PhD. Earlier it was not the case. 20 years back, for teaching, MPhil was enough. So people after their post-graduation, they went for this MPhil degree, got the degree and then joined the system. But over the period of last 15-20 years, now PhD is relevant for any teaching position. So as a result, spending 1.5 years, 2 years is in a way waste. They are not going to use it now. Now MPhil is irrelevant in a real life, reality. So that is the reason why there are many representations from different colleges, faculty members, university teachers. They have been saying this for the last almost 10 years. And as a result, this is now discontinued. This will not in no way, this will not affect the research. In the new education system, national education policy system, now degree courses are ideally will be for 4 years. 3 years also you can study, no problem. Now the national education policy says, if a student completes a course in 1 year, he or she will get certificate. 2 years diploma, 3 years degree. Ideally, the policy proposes it should be for 4 years. So, particularly for those who are going to take up research work and all, 4 year is necessary. In the 4th year, they are going to discuss about research methodology and other aspects. Postgraduate course, for those who are willing to take up research work, if they have already completed 4 years, then it is enough. If they do 1 year postgraduate research work, they can directly go to PhD. So that is going to be the system in future.
Professor, you also talked about teaching in context of PhD. Sometimes it is a complaint of a few people who are engaged with both, that when you are assigned with a lot of teaching duties while you're pursuing your PhD, it kind of take away your time and energy from doing the research work. And that is also one of the reasons why the research that is finalized is sometimes not of as great a quality as it would have been otherwise if teaching aspect had been removed from it. So how do you see that? Like, do you believe that burdening all those candidates with the with like teaching responsibilities, it kind of dilutes the kind of quality that the research would have been otherwise?
Yeah, nowadays teachers are expected to teach for a minimum number of hours. In colleges, certain hours. Universities, depending upon the level, whether one is assistant professor, associate or professor, they have to take classes for minimum period. But the new education system is going to give more freedom to the faculty members who are interested in taking up research. It's going to be flexible. So this question will not arise, because depending upon one's interest, this flexibility will be there. In fact, in the whole national education policy, the thrust is after students, it is on teachers. So teachers will have more time, particularly those who are interested in doing research work. Their classworks will be less, their administrative work will be less.
Towards the end, you are here in Jammu and Kashmir, and I'm sure you've also visited some of the educational institutions. Do you see them prepared for implementing this national education policy, or just the implementation part is going to take a few years just for them to get accustomed to this new policy?
When we introduce any new policy, of course, it involves challenges. It involves challenges, particularly during the initial periods. But I have seen in academic system, our people, teachers, academic system is capable of adapting to changes. Initially, for 1 or 2 years, when we evolve a new system, there might be some difficulties. But in a limited period of time, 3-4 years, everything will get.
What kind of key challenges do you see that will be impacting these institutions in the initial period, and how should they try to overcome it?
Yes. You may be knowing already central government, UGC, they have started implementing certain changes. From this year onwards, for all admissions, common university entrance exam is going to come. So that way our burden is reduced. Jammu General University or Tamil Nadu Central University, our burden is reduced. But as far as preparing for courses now, as I mentioned earlier, particularly in the field of social sciences and all, we have to make changes in the syllabus making, syllabus revision. That is a very important aspect. Teachers have to sit, and depending upon the requirements, needs of the society, they have to change the syllabi. Always syllabi should be revised periodically, because that is how we adjust to the realities. We make our students better equipped. When they go out, they should be able to get jobs, or they should be able to enter the profession of their liking. Certainly, initially there will be challenges with regard to this syllabi, with regard to even teaching, because teachers have to adjust for new courses, and for the administration as a whole, adapting to the system will be initially for about 2-3 years. It's a challenge only. But I feel that we will be able to take up the challenge. Already certain universities, they have already started taking. Certain state governments, as far as I know, till February, already 10 state governments, they have fully started implementing, including Andhra, Telangana, Assam and all, from school level, not just university level, from school level. So when the state government also supports, involves, it's very easy.
Thank you so much. So you've heard that academics is not going to remain a very rigid field from now onwards, and especially the focus on research is going to be towards local institutions, local economy and local innovations to create a data bank that would later on help in policy making. That is the kind of objective for implementing this new education policy that is going to transform the educational institutions across the country.